My name is Alistair Lee. In this video, I'm going to walk through the process of creating a new community site using Adobe Experience Manager Communities. Community sites can be used to engage with customers with social features like forums, events, as well as blogs. They can also be used to enable through social learning features like assignments and a learning resources catalog. In this video, though, I'm going to create a brand new site by logging into the authoring environment of Adobe Experience Manager. I can access my existing sites and create a new site by navigating to Communities and then the Sites page. Here I've got a button to create a new site, which will kick off the Site Creation Wizard. Before we do that, though, it's important to note that any site that you create is always based on a template. There are a number of different templates that you can access out of the box, but for this example, I'd like to create my own template. That way I can customize it for exactly the requirements I've got for my site. And to access those templates, I'm once again going to click on Adobe Experience Manager, navigate to the Tools icon, and then to Communities. And here I can access my site templates. There are a number of different templates that come out of the box, and I can see them all here. But in our example, we're going to create a brand new template. So I'm going to click on the Create button, and I'll call this Alistair's template. I can switch it from disabled to enabled, give it a description, a thumbnail, and most importantly, define the structure. And it's this structure that will define which functions exist within my community, as well as the order of those functions and the title and labels of each of those different functions. And over on the right-hand side here, I can see all of the different functionality that's incorporated out of the box into Adobe Experience Manager Communities. To add some of this functionality to my new template, I simply drag it from the right-hand side over to the left-hand side. And I drop it down into that left-hand side column. In this case, I've just added a standard web page. So this is something that I'll be able to edit and add my own text, images, and other content. I'll give it a title of Welcome because it's going to be the first page of my site, and give it a URL of Home. And once I click Save, I've now got a template that includes only a single function, which is just a web page. So let's start adding some more functionality. I'd like to include some forums, so I'll drag those over to my template builder. We'll call this Discussions as the title and use a URL of Forums. You can see there are some additional options in the case of some of these functions that I can also set. Let's also give our new community a blog, and I'll do that once again by dragging it over from the right-hand column to the left-hand column. We'll call it blog and give a URL of blog. And I'll also add a calendar of events, once again by dragging and dropping that over, giving it a title and then a URL, and clicking Save. And finally, I'm going to add some groups to my community, and these groups enable me to create what are essentially sub-communities within my community. And these can be public groups that anybody can access. They can also be set up as private groups where they're completely invisible unless you've been invited specifically to that group. So I'll call this section of my community Groups and give it a URL of Groups. But I can also select a template from my groups. Because these are sub-communities, we can create group templates in the same way that we can create a site template. In this case, I'm just going to select one of the existing out-of-the-box templates for my groups. I'm going to call it use the conversational group template, and click on Save. So now I've got a community template set up with only a few of the different functions that are available, but I'm happy with this for my community. I'm going to click on the Save button to save this as a template that I can now access when I create my new community. Let's do that now. I'm going to create a new community by once again going to Adobe Experience Manager, clicking on Communities and then Sites, and then clicking on the blue Create button to kick off the Site Creation Wizard. Now this is going to be a community for boating enthusiasts, so we'll call this the Boaters Community. I can give it a description, set up the site route, the language. We can support multiple different languages. Give it a name, something like Boaters, and then select one of the templates. And I can see all of the out-of-the-box templates here, as well as that new template that we just set up, which I'm going to select for my new community. I'll click Next to select the design and branding for my community. And we've got a number of different themes that you can use. All of these are out of the box. And this is actually using the Bootstrap theming framework. And so you can upload your own CSS files if you've got it in that Bootstrap framework set up already. I'm going to select one of the existing themes. This superhero one looks good for what I'm doing. I can also select some images for branding. If I want to add a banner image at the top of my community, I can add that from my local desktop. Once I click Next, I'll be taken to the Settings page of the Site Community Wizard. And here I can access all of the different settings for my community, like who's allowed to log in, whether they can use their social profiles to log in, whether they can access the site anonymously. I can add a CAPTCHA if I'd like to prevent bots from logging in. I can associate a tagging space with my community to set aside some different tags that can be used across the community, set up moderation settings, group management settings, associate my community with my Adobe Analytics account so that I can track and analyze all of the different activity going on in my community, set up machine translation if I'd like to support multiple languages and have my community automatically translate some of that content, as well as set up any enablement settings I'd like. Once I've got all of these settings how I'd like them, I can click the Next button and then click Create to have Adobe Experience Manager automatically create that new community. But you can see it's done so in faster time than I could complete that sentence. I've got a brand new folder here called Boaters. If I click on that folder, I can see my new Boaters community. Now I can publish this right away, but there are a few things I'd like to edit in this community before I push it live. And to do that, I'm going to click on the pencil icon to open up my site so that I can start editing it. Now we've opened up this site in editing mode, so I can see a number of different modes here that allow me to edit the site. I've got a layouting mode if I'd like to make some edits to optimize it for mobile devices, for example. I've also got the ability to preview the site at any time by clicking on this preview button. I'm going to go back to editing mode here, and I've got a sidebar that contains a number of different digital assets. Everything that I've got access to in the digital asset library is available for my use here as I'm creating my site. In addition to all of those different assets, I've also got access to all of the different components I would have if I was editing a standard AEM Sites page. And so if I'd like to drag some of these components onto my welcome page, I can do that, again, simply by dragging and dropping these components right onto the page itself. So I'll add a title, maybe some text underneath that title, and an adaptive image that will resize automatically. To edit any one of these images, I can do inline editing with some of the components. So welcome to the community. Add some additional text, maybe an adaptive image, either from the digital asset library or something directly from my desktop. I can simply drag and drop this boating image, for example, into the digital asset library and click OK. And continuing to make those edits. And you can see we've got a brand new community here that automatically includes a welcome page, discussion forums, blog, events, and groups. Because I'm logged in as an administrator, I've also got access to this administration tab. So we've edited this first page here. We've added some imagery. We've changed the title. Let me go ahead and publish this by clicking on the Publish button to take a look at our brand new community. The site's now been published, so I'm going to access the published version by accessing this on the publish server rather than the author server. And here's our brand new community. It's exactly how we set it up. We've got all of the functionality that we added as we were creating our template, including our new discussion forums, our blogging engine, our events, as well as a number of different groups. I can't see any groups here because I'm not logged in, but an administrator or a group manager can start adding some of the different public and private groups that will be available to the community. That's how easy it is to create a public-facing community using Adobe Experience Manager Communities. Thanks for your time.